Hey guys, well, we're just about done with math as well. Isn't that great? I'm sad for that because math is the best class that we have, right? I'm sure you agree. I know you agree. Hey, just a couple things to review quickly. Um, this week, we're going to finish up on dividing by decimals, and then our test is going to be on Thursday, our final test. Thursday. Final test. Okay. Um, Okay, now that you're done jumping up and down and screaming, I wanted to review a few things. First of all, perimeter. We have perimeter, and we can do perimeters of any object. We can do perimeters of triangles, we can do rectangles, we can do squares, we can do octagons, and so all we have to do for perimeters is remember to add up all the sides. And so if we have this rectangle, we have this width, this length, but we also have another width over here and another length down here. And what I've seen a few times is that some people are just adding this width to that length and calling it good. But that means you've only done half of the perimeter. Okay? There's four sides. So if we add this side to this side to this side to this side, that means we've added 2 times the length because there's 2 of those, plus 2 times widths because there's 2 of those. All right. So make sure if you have to, if you're confused, draw a picture, and we have to add all 4 sides together. We can't leave out 2 sides because that's only half of the perimeter if you do that. Okay. So that's the perimeter of a rectangle. Um, Remember, let's do perimeter of a square really quick. The neat thing about a square is that all the sides are equal. So if we have this square down here, all these sides are supposed to be equal. They label them S in the Abeka book, usually to designate the side of a square. So this side is S, that side's S, S, and S. So if we have 4 S's, we just add them all together, S plus S plus S plus S. Okay? Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. And again, the perimeter is the distance around all of those sides. So I've seen a couple people just put down 1 side for a perimeter. That's not very cool. So we either add all 4 sides together, or we can remember multiplication is short for adding a bunch of things. So we can say 4 times S. Because there's 4 of those S's, that's the perimeter. All right, so that's perimeter. That's perimeter of a rectangle and a square. Area, guys. Now remember, area. Area, length times width. In this case, we're multiplying length times width. And I think that's where some people get confused because you just want to do 2 things for perimeter. But perimeter is different. We have to add all the 4 sides. On the area, we just multiply width times length, or length times width. Okay, so the area of a rectangle, put a little r down there, length times width. Different from perimeter. Perimeter we're adding, area we're multiplying. We only multiply 2 for area. Area of a square, remember, all the sides are equal, so we have S and times this side, so length times width, side times side. That means side squared, because that's side times side, right? Remember, we multiply a number by how many times this is up here, all right? So that's how we find the area, length times width of a rectangle, or side times side of a square. So that's perimeter and area. Just wanted to do that real quick. And then what I wanted to hit was that pesky little squaring. The idea of squaring something. When we talk about squaring something, all we're saying is we multiply that number by itself. Okay? And so if we have a number like 3, and we see the little superscript, that little tiny 2 up there tells you how many times you multiply 3 by itself. So this is 3 times 3. And I hope this certainly doesn't confuse you, but when you get to Mr. Carlson's class, these numbers, they could have more than just a 2 there. It could be like a 3 or a 4 or a 5. all it does is tell you how many times to multiply that number. So if I had 3 to the 4th power, that means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That number right up here, that just tells you how many times we're multiplying the number by itself. So we're only doing squares in this class, so we will only have a 2 up here, and that's what this means right here. 3 times 3, okay? So this does not mean 2 times 3. It does not mean 3 plus 2. This is a little symbol that says multiply the 3 by itself. It's 3 times 3. All right, so that's squaring. Hopefully that makes sense right now. So what does 5 squared mean? That means 5 times 5. All right? Now, then the other thing we have is square root. We talked about this symbol is called a radical sign, actually. And when there's a number under here, like 25, they want to know what number multiplied by itself gives you 25. So now this is kind of the reverse process. In this case, then, the square root of 25, the number is what can be multiplied by itself to give this, and that's 5, right? So 5 times 5 gives you 25. So when they see a square root sign, figure out what number multiplied by itself gives you that. All right? So maybe a couple more examples here. Square root of 100. What times itself gives you 100? 10 times 10, right? So the square root of 100 is 10. What's the square root of 144? We all know that one because we practiced it in our speed drills. 144, okay, that's 12, right? 12 times 12 is 144. All right, so that's a quick review of squares, square roots, perimeters, areas, and then wanted to touch on division by decimals. And this is just division, okay? But we have to take care of the pesky little decimal point. So if we have this problem, 0.27, and we're dividing that into the number 4, we never want to have a decimal out here as our divisor. And so we change that by moving the decimal place. We move the decimal place here in the divisor, and we have to move it over here. So we move it 2 places, we end up with 27, and then we have to move it 2 places here. It used to be right here. Now we move it 2 places, so now it's here, and then we put it straight up, and then we do our division. All right? And then we do our division. One more example. I'm trying to make this quick so it doesn't go too long. 6.8 divided into 54.4. I hope you're ahead of me. Okay, so again, we got a decimal out here in the divisor. We can't do that. So we make it 68 by moving this decimal one to the right. And then over here, we change this one as well. We have to move it the same number of places. 1 place to the right, 1 place to the right. So now it becomes that. There's our assumed decimal. Put it right up top. And if we have to append some zeros to make it divide out, then that's what we do. So, and then we just divide as normal and let the numbers fall where they need to. All right? So that's how we do division. And that's all we're doing this week, basically, is taking a look at dividing by decimals, and then we'll have our test, our final test on Thursday. All right, guys, thanks for your hard work, and I hope that clears up some issues. Thanks.